we're going to be discussing an important topic about men and women relationships, and obviously it could go either way nowadays because of the conflicts in dating violence. And we are discussing it because we know that there are a lot of good relationships that go sour, and then there's the ones, like the negative unhealthy ones, continue to repeat that pattern. They keep going on to abuse the same person, or they want to go back and have that relationship, and 20 years later that person's married to somebody and that abuser has issues. So we're going to talk about that here now. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. We're talking about dating violence. It's very important you know the signs, the red flags, and to pay attention, take those seriously. Do not try to get mixed up in a relationship where there's red flags in that relationship showing you that you could possibly get very much hurt or injured. It happens several times and it goes underreported. There are significant incidents where there may be stealing, there may be drugs, there may be other factors involved. So domestic violence and abuse is one thing. Dating violence is another, because that person is obviously not your, husband or wife in whichever case that may be. There's a lot of victims that are speaking out gradually angered by what they went through, because it starts out as maybe a casual affair or a date and it turns into something else. There was several incidents I can think of, like one with a former fighter who was raping girls in Brighton Heights, and the Pittsburgh police had told me about the story. Also, several other incidents in McKees Rocks where men would go to the strip bar and then they would rape or abuse. In a lot of cases, that's very common. If they're viewing pornography, there's another way to look at pornography as a tool to harm a woman. If a man wants to harm a woman, pornography has always been one of the other things that gets involved. If you are in agreement into a relationship, though, you have to realize that a lot of times people get talked into things, and that is where we're going with this discussion about the aggressor. Usually, you have to be pushed to a point where you can't go any further with that person. And if you can't go any further with that person, it's because the aggressor or the person being aggressive in the relationship wants it to go further than what it's supposed to. There are boundaries, and there are reasons why we're going to talk about boundaries and why you can only go so far with somebody on the first date, okay? A man goes out, has coffee with a girl. That's all it's supposed to be. Coffee at the local, diner. That's one thing. Taking her home and shoving her pants off, that's typically what we're talking about. He had other intentions and agenda with her. And there are girls that know that men, just like a lot of times nowadays, there are incidents with children now where somebody has a relationship with your child or your niece or nephew or cousin, and you know about it. Yet you can't have the evidence or proof. All you have to do is suspect that there may be something more going on there. You have to go with your gut feeling. Your gut feelings don't lie. It has been true time and time again. I ignored it and I ended up getting very much injured. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of times those injuries are lifelong injuries. And there aren't enough counselors and hours in the day to talk about abuse like the way we're talking about it. So that's why we're recording it, so that you know what to look for. Dating violence it's very common. As far as when we talk about the characteristics, what a man or woman is agreeing to, if they agree to go out to dinner, and that's all it is dinner, then it needs to just be dinner and go home, okay? Usually, you walk that person to the door and the night is over, okay? For the person that was abusing that person let's go dating violence, let's talk about date rape. He asks a girl out, he rapes her that night. He's a convicted rapist. He's a 5-time convicted rapist up at Edinburgh University. And all we can do is talk to the local police department, and we did. We talked to the second lieutenant there, and ask questions about, like, what do they do for campus security. Now, that was in 1989, okay? Things haven't changed much at all. That's the same thing that I'm talking about happened in 1989 about the red flags and looking for the signs or something maybe not quite right. You know your friend is not the kind of person that sleeps with this man, or this girl is not this kind of person. You know that if they're acting out or behaving in such a way that you say, well, are they being promiscuous or are they just going out? It's hard to tell, but I'm going to tell you, most girls don't like to be promiscuous and go on a one-night stand. So I'm just going to assume that either something more is going on there and no one's talking about it, okay? I notice with a lot of women who have gained weight and have health problems, they blame themselves for something they did not do. A lot of times they'll take it very personal, and they'll end up going to an abortion clinic and, you know, obviously getting an abortion. And this is a repeat pattern. And this is all stems from he went too far to begin with, okay? What happens is that girl ends up pregnant. She has no one to support her, okay? Luckily, there's support group and there's places to go online nowadays so that you don't have to feel like you have to beat yourself up about something that you did. You make a mistake. That doesn't mean you have to go get an abortion. The mistake was that he went too far. The man went too far in the relationship. Usually, the women go along with it, okay? That's just usually how it works, okay? Now, a real man. Let's talk about what the contrast here, because we gave you guys that part of the story. Let's tell you about how a real man and a real woman react to each other. They agree and they honor each other's decisions. Like in this case, the decision to get married, they're going to put it off. They're going to say, well, I wanted to think about it because I wanted a decision to be made sooner, and I didn't know if we were ready because we were young and we weren't mature and we were making poor decisions at that time. And I wanted to sit down and think about it and decide if this is what I wanted. Plus, I had other things going on. That is a mutual agreement with a man and woman making a decision. Now, the man goes off and he dates somebody else, okay? So, again, it's communication, though. It's the key to this relationship stuff that we're talking about here. As a childhood survivor of child abuse, sexual abuse as an adult, I want to say firsthand, not everybody gets the title of survivor that easily. You have to really know what you've been through and identify what victimization is. You don't have to be a victim again and again and again. And that's what happened to me. I kept becoming a victim of abuse. The pattern kept playing out. And what I learned is today, I'm learning how to communicate about what happened to me. And I'm sharing it. And I'm hoping that that person out there right now that might be a victim of abuse or domestic violence can hear my story and know where to get help. I contacted the hotline, and I started the journey in domestic violence recovery in 2010. So you can do this.